Good morning and welcome to Bold Business. I'm David Grasso from Gen FKD, and I'm joined by none other than Selena Hill from Black Enterprise. We also have Mara Stein from Bold TV and Jay Newton-Small from MemoryWell. Let's talk business headlines. You ready, Selena?
I'm ready.
Our first headline is from genfkd.org and is about the June jobs report. According to that report, payroll increased by 220,000, far exceeding private estimates. Previous numbers for April and May were also revised upward, revealing better numbers on the job front. These numbers aren't too shabby, but it's important to put the numbers in perspective. Mark Hamrick from Bankrate.com points out that 100,000 jobs need to be added every month to break even with population growth. The job report also reported wage growth coming in at an annual increase of 2.5%. That's low by historical standards, and it indicates that pay remains stuck in neutral. So my question for the panel is, do you feel like these statistics reveal a good job market, or is there another story to be told?
Well, I think it certainly, at least, is growth, right? I mean, and you want to always see positive growth. You want to see that that we're making progress in the job market. But I think the bigger problem has always been wages, right? So wages have been stagnating for more than a decade in the United States. And when people don't get paid as much or can't keep up with the rate of inflation, then that's when they really start to feel the crunch. They have to take a second job in order just to make ends meet, and they won't be able to afford things like job retraining when they maybe want to go back to college, take different classes, and career advancement. So I think that's the bigger concern.
Mara?
Right, and the Federal Reserve has a goal to raise wages by 3.5%, so the 2.5% is still falling below that goal. I think that the job growth is good, but we also need to consider the quality of jobs more than the quantity and which industries are growing.
How about you, Selena?
Absolutely. We're still fighting for a living wage. As she said, mentioned, if you don't have a living wage, then more than likely, a lot of people have to depend on the government. And, a lot of conservatives and fiscal conservatives especially are saying we don't like government entitlement programs, so raise the wage. And I think that that's the way definitely to help economic growth.
Great. Thanks, Selena. Our next headline comes to us from the Wall Street Journal and is about StockStream, a viral stock-picking game started by a 26-year-old former Amazon software engineer. The game allows users to vote on which stocks to buy and sell and automatically makes a trade every 5 minutes based on a tally of votes. StockStream was recently purchased by Cheddar, the streaming financial news network, and its founder Mike Roberts is now working for the network. Cheddar plans on adding $50,000 to Mike's StockStream account, which has already turned a modest profit since he turned the game on. So my question is, a stock-picking game. Would you invest your savings, Jay, in a stock picking game?
Probably not my savings, but I mean, the point of Wall Street, I think, often for people is that it is kind of like gambling. It's like a game, right? And so in this case, it's like every other parts of investment. But it's serious when you're talking about people's life savings and you're talking about, their retirement. It's not serious when it's just, some funny money.
Yeah, like Jay, I'm quick to say no, I wouldn't put my savings in something that's sort of in control of a crowd. But I actually think in this case, I trust this kind of crowd. These are people who have incentive to pick the right stocks. And I think that they really want to earn points in the game by getting the right stocks. So I would trust them with my money in this case.
That's interesting. How about
Absolutely.
you, Selena?
I found this so interesting because it's creative, it's innovative, and I think that the person who actually invented it, he was doing pretty well. He was actually doing better than the stock market itself. So I would definitely invest disposable income, not a savings.
I think it's a very interesting concept for Cheddar. You guys know Cheddar is a network a lot like ours, where they stream financial news, and I think it would be interesting to integrate that. If you could watch the stock market updates, but also play it. I mean, would you be willing to interact in that way? Would that help you or incentivize you to watch the show, Mara?
I think so. I think we should probably start doing it at Bold. It would probably be really fun.
I guess I don't have time. I feel like I don't have time to do anything because I have a startup company, I have other things to do. So having to watch the market is just one other thing that I don't really have time to do.
Well, anyway, and speaking of your app there, our last headline comes to us from the Washington Post and is an article about one of our panelists, Jay. She's the co-founder of MemoryWell, a network of more than 300 journalists across the country telling the life stories of those living with Alzheimer's and dementia. The article talks about how Jay's experience with her father and his Alzheimer's diagnosis led her to launch an app aimed at improving care for family members stricken with these diseases. So, Jay, you turned lemons into lemonade.
Well, it's not lemonade yet, knock on wood, but we're trying to.
So tell us your story. What happened? Your father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Unfortunately, he's passed already.
Yes, he passed last year after living with the disease for 15 years, and for the last 5 years of his life, I was his primary caregiver. And I had to put him into a home a few years ago, and they asked me to fill out this 20-page questionnaire about his life. And I'm sitting there writing down these answers, thinking, first of all, who can read my terrible handwriting, and secondly, who remembers 20 pages of handwritten data points for the 150 residents there? So instead, I was a journalist. I spent the last decade at Time magazine, and so I was like, look, why don't you just let me write down a story for you? It's a lot easier for me and probably for you. I did, and it absolutely transformed his care. 2 of his caregivers were actually Ethiopian, and they'd had no idea that he'd lived in Ethiopia for 4 years doing development work in his early 20s, and so they became his champions. They would sit and show him photos for hours and would just, of Africa and Addis Ababa, and he would tell them stories about working with Emperor Haile Selassie, and it really transformed his care. So that's how MemoryWell was born. Now we have a website where we host each person's stories, and family members can upload their loved ones' favorite music and arts and videos and readings. And like you said, we have more than 350 journalists now across the country writing these life stories in the hopes of improving their care, like my dad's.
That's amazing.
Do people have trouble, confronting the reality with this diagnosis sometimes? Is that maybe your main barrier? Is that, they don't want to take the plunge? Or I guess when they end up in some sort of care situation, they have to do this, and that kind of forces them?
Well, most of our clients come to us through homes, assisted living facilities, who already, they have people going into memory care there. And at that point, by the time you're putting a loved one into a memory care unit, they probably can't tell their own story. It's mostly family members that we interview. But we do have some people who come to us much earlier on in their diagnosis, and they can still tell their own stories. But you're right, the first moment of diagnosis, there is often a lot of denial that goes on. I mean, certainly my dad denied that, and hid his diagnosis from his friends for years and years before it finally became so obvious he couldn't deny it anymore. But, and there is a lot of stigma attached to the disease. So people think, oh, you've been diagnosed with Alzheimer's dementia, you're automatically like a zombie, you're just, checked out, gone. When the fact of the matter is people can live 10 to 15 years beyond, or even beyond that, and still lead very productive, sort of full lives. And so I think there's a lot of education that needs to be done around the disease. But either way, life storytelling helps people with a calling card, it's just it becomes the beginning of a story they can have with family members, a conversation they can have about different points in their life, and collecting those memories for their grandkids and their great-grandkids.
Jay, can you tell us really quickly how people can get their hands on the app?
Sure. So you can go to our website, which is MemoryWell.com, and we also have a Kickstarter going right now, so you can actually buy stories at a discount on the Kickstarter, so I highly recommend going to the Kickstarter. If you just Google Kickstarter and MemoryWell, you'll be able to find it, or just go to MemoryWell.com.
Well, ladies and Mara, we'd like to thank you. This is almost the conclusion to your internship at Bold TV, so thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely, and thank you for coming on, Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. So next, we'd like to welcome Michael Van Grinsven and Anthony Williams from Northwestern Mutual, financial planning and life insurance provider. Michael is the internship program director, and Anthony is a current financial representative intern at Northwestern Mutual's New York City office. Welcome to you both. So tell us about the internship program.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Well, we're excited because this internship program is a very unique experience. The company's had the internship for 50 years, so we're celebrating a milestone.
There were internships 50 years ago?
There were very few. Not a lot.
It's not a new invention, is it?
No. But it was actually, interestingly enough, it was an experience the company had actually before 1967. And through that experience, we found that there were some great opportunities to find talent on campus and bring them into the financial services industry.
And you have talent right here.
We do?
Yes, sir.
So you are one of the interns in this FAME program,
Yes,
aren't
I
you?
am one of the interns. I actually an anomaly. I started internship as a freshman, and I'm now a senior, so I've been an intern for about 3 years. And
Super eager, huh?
yeah, and then I'm actually one of the top 10 interns in the actual country. So I think that's what I decided to bring me on
How's
here.
is that
Oh, that's
ranking
awesome.
system work?
It's really more about how many clients' lives you've impacted, and that's really the basis of how they measure the internship success program.
So what do you think you've learned from your internship? Any real life skills that you can apply once you
I've
enter
learned
the
a lot.
workforce?
I can say I've learned a lot. I would say one thing that was really stuck to me was hearing the word no. From wanting to meet with other individuals, wanting to get into certain circles. I was told no the first time, and getting told no at the first time, it was really heartbreaking, and I really had to learn how to, realize that they're not really saying no to me. They really something must be bothering them. There's a lot of different factors, and it's not no to me. It's really no to something else. And I feel like if I'm able to take that experience anywhere else, I'm like, okay, if I can't get into this, let's say restaurant or something like that, no, fine, I'll go ahead and walk away and try again somewhere else. So I think that can really relate to other real life experiences. Just understanding how to deal with the word no.
Right, rejection. That's a great thing to learn, especially at a young age. What makes this internship program really stand out from other internships?
Probably the most practical side of the internship is, as Anthony described, is they're not doing the behind the scenes or the backroom work. They're actually client facing. And I think that's the part where our interns have, as we've surveyed them and have spent time with those that have interned with us, is they really put a high point on the fact that they got to meet the clients. They understood the client's story. They understood the client's needs. They were able to do some work with some mentors or some other longer term professionals that have then been able to go out and help the client with a specific need. And I think that part about being, if you will, on the field versus kind of behind the scenes is really a differentiator that helps our interns excel. And as Anthony mentioned, it really is one of those pieces where you take some life skills that you can apply to so many other parts of life, and that client-facing experience is probably that biggest piece that we see.
So you've been running this internship program for a number of years, right, Michael?
Yes, I have.
So how have you seen it? I think people are most interested in how an internship helps you get a job.
Yeah.
Do you feel like a lot of your talent comes from your internship program?
As a company, it does. Interestingly enough, what we have found as we've surveyed the data is that 1 out of 3 of our college seniors makes this a career. And that's a really impressive number, and it's a very good business case number for us. But what we are equally excited is the 2/3 that do not make it a career become great clients and great advocates for us. And I think as we've surveyed, we recently did a survey of our interns going back to 67, and we talked to them, those that were not part of the Northwestern family as a representative, many of them are clients, and they talked about how they learned so much about themselves, and then they learned a lot about the business. And that combination really gave them an entree into more opportunities and better opportunities than they might have had otherwise.
So what is your selection process like when it comes to choosing interns?
Sure. There's several steps in the process. One is we want them to discover a lot about themselves. And as Anthony mentioned, this idea of rejection or handling no. We do have a series of what we'll call market surveys where they get a chance to talk to the market or potential market about what would they think about financial services, what are their opinions, what are their experiences like. And that combination really gives them some insight to what is the market like and what are some of the needs that the market has. Then we do some profiling as far as their background to find out, have they had opportunities in the past where they've overcome obstacles? It might have been in academics, it could have been in athletics, music, fine arts. Where were some of the opportunities where they had to work hard to get to the next level? That combination and several other factors helps us to find out, do they have the makeup, and will they be able to, as Anthony mentioned, handle some of the challenges, and then also the rewards of what it comes from being an intern.
So Anthony, how'd you learn to talk about money? I think one of the hardest things for young people is kind of transitioning into, hi stranger, let's talk about money. How did you tackle that?
Well, it's more about being relatable. It's more about understanding the pain points about money and really drilling on there. For example, when I first started out, I was talking to college kids, and it was like, hey man, what are some things you want to learn about? I think it's more, you have to approach it from an educational standpoint instead of just say, hey, let's talk about money. It's more about, what do you want to learn? Do you know anything about credit cards? Do you know how much money you should be saving? So I think approaching from an educational standpoint, asking what they know, what they want to learn, I think really helps ease into the conversation.
Would you say that this internship has helped you decide what you want to do in your career?
Yes. Honestly, I felt like it was a perfect fit. Reason being because I had always had a passion behind personal finance and was also very entrepreneurial as well. So this internship gives me the opportunity to be entrepreneurial, and I mean entrepreneurial as in I'm essentially a licensed financial advisor, right? So I essentially run my own practice, and on top of that, tied it with my personal finance passion. And once I got that, I'm like, all right, taking it to the moon. And Northwestern Mutual actually pays for a lot of credentialing. So I'm really looking forward to that. They paid for my investment licensing, insurance licensing, and now I'm sitting down for my CFP, which is Certified Financial Planner, in a couple years, all paid for by by Michael.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So is it too late for people to apply for this season? I know it's the summer already.
The summer's passed, but we do have a rolling enrollment.
Okay.
So we do recruit students for the fall, obviously next spring. One of the advantages of our internship is you can enter at various points versus just a seasonal internship. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that is awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us, guys.
We
Enjoyed it.
appreciate that.
Next up, we have Garrett Johnson. He's a co-founder of the Lincoln Network, which is focused on bringing civic organizations and government institutions into the 21st century. He's here to talk about Deployed, which is their initiative to empower freedom-focused organizations by helping them utilize technology and improve processes and messaging. They are also a partner of Bold, and we enjoy working with Lincoln. Welcome.
Hi.
Hey, good morning. How are you guys?
Welcome. Good
Great.
morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you.
So tell us about Deployed and about the Lincoln Network.
Yeah, so Lincoln Network was started about 4 years ago. I moved out from Washington, D.C. to Silicon Valley when I started a company. And so I had a policy background, but was working in tech, and so wanted to meet other people who fit that background, that criteria. So we started to put on happy hours, and people wanted to get more involved, and so those happy hours...
Everyone is always interested in a happy hour.
When you
Right,
mix a little
that's it.
alcohol
That's
into
all you
it,
need to say
then
right
that's
there.
an easy way to get people out. But as soon as we got done with the happy hours, people were asking, what's next? So that turned into hackathons, into policy-focused conversations. So we bring technology entrepreneurs, investors, and influencers in tech together with policymakers and lawmakers, both in Washington, D.C. and around the country. And we talk about how we can improve our economy. We know that tech is now impacting every economy, every industry. And so, how we get tech right and the policies that we put in place really makes a difference for our economy across the country.
Can you give an example of that? That sounds so interesting.
Yeah, so you talk about issues like the future of work and driverless cars and drones. A lot of that technology is coming out of places like New York and Silicon Valley and Austin, but it will impact hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Americans around the country. When you talk about autonomous vehicles, that potentially could put millions of people who make their living driving trucks or other vans or delivery services out of business. So what does that mean from a policy perspective? The technology that really, smart people are building in Silicon Valley or New York, how do we make sure that our policies are in place to make sure that the impact of that is not negative for the vast majority of Americans?
Right, that's so interesting. And one of the hot topics right now when it comes to policy is getting jobs back, especially when it comes to coal and miners. But that sector of the workforce seems to no longer be existing or dwindling down. But it seems like our president keeps saying he's going to bring that back. What advice would you share to policymakers who are really focusing on trying to bring coal back?
Well, that's one of the focus that we have with Deploy is how do we connect really smart people in technology with policymakers to help solve a problem. That can be taking them from a technology problem to a solution. How do they improve their internal communication, external communication? How do they deliver information to their citizenry? But it can also be focused on policy discussions. Bringing antiquated old industries back is probably not going to happen. So it's trying to think about, what are the new industries that potentially can replace coal? Taking people who are hardworking, who are intelligent, who have all the capacity in the world to live very productive lives, but perhaps they need a new skill set. And how do we deliver those skill sets? How do we ensure that they and their children are participating in the innovation economy? These are conversations that our community in Lincoln Network, they're not only building the technology, but they're really interested in how do we engage policymakers in these conversations so that we are ahead of the curve.
So, but politics tends to be reactive. So how do we
does.
change the conversation? How do we reframe the conversation with policymakers to be forward-thinking instead of backward-thinking?
Talk really slowly, small words. No, seriously.
That's a problem on both sides.
That's the solution.
It is.
It's just politics seems to be the last thing that changes.
It is. Government is built to be slow and inefficient. We have this terminology in tech that it's a feature, not a bug. It's not a problem in our society. It was structured to be slow, and the pace of change, it takes a while.
So it's like dial-up internet.
So you have to be patient.
Right,
you have to be patient. You can't boil the ocean overnight. But what we're focused with at Lincoln Network is trying to raise the bar, trying to bring our technology community and the cutting-edge technologies and the skill sets and the methodologies that they use on a daily basis in their businesses. How do we bring that to the space of government, whether it be on the local, state, or federal level? How do we match those technology professionals with government professionals who need their skill sets, again, to solve technology problems like productivity? How do I, integrate my communication technology so that I'm working more productively? Or how do I tackle and address these big policy issues that are going to be confronting the country?
But a lot of that, isn't that education more than anything? Like educating our policymakers on what tools are available to them today, right now?
I think so. I think it is exposure and, as you pointed out, an education component. I am optimistic in thinking that we have really smart people who work in government. You have people who, come from New York, our current president, who says that everyone in D.C. is an idiot and stupid. I don't see the government in that way. I think that we have really smart, competent people working for government, but they're just working in an institution that is built not to be as productive, as innovative as it should be. And that's what we're focused with at Lincoln. Network is trying to move government into the 21st century. And I think this is an important, task or responsibility that every citizen has, is to hold our government accountable and demand more.
Absolutely. So would you say that the policymakers, the people you've worked with, have been receptive to Lincoln Network and this forward-thinking idea where you are intertwining tech and government and policy?
Absolutely. So that's part of the reason why we launched Lincoln Deployed. Is on one side of the spectrum, we've had government professionals come to us and say, hey, we have these technology problems. We read an article about you guys being the tech guys who are interested in civic engagement. Can you help us? Help us get from technology problem to technology solution. That's one side of the spectrum. On the other side of the spectrum, we've had technology professionals who say, I work at Google, Facebook, Slack. I'm making a lot of money. I'm not going to go work full time for the government and take a massive pay cut, but I want to figure out how I can use my skill set to solve real government problems. And so we are the middleware. We're in the middle, connecting those technology professionals with those nonprofit civic organizations, C3, C4s, or local, state, and federal government professionals, helping to connect the dots and helping them to solve real, tangible problems that will ideally impact the American people.
But isn't that part of the problem, is the conversation on one side is less government and on the other side it's more government, and we never talk about improving government?
To an extent, that is one of the interesting things specifically about tech, and especially tech hubs like New York or Silicon Valley or Austin, is that there is a very broad political spectrum. And on some issues like, warrantless wiretaps, encryption, backdoors to your, mobile devices, you have a lot of people who want a limited government approach. They want the government to take less of an active role in those types of issues. But when it comes to, other issues, like net neutrality, they want the government to take a more heavy-handed, more aggressive approach. So there is a nimbleness, a fluidity to how people in tech see government. So it's not necessarily a fixation on the political spectrum, but really they take it issue by issue. So I think that provides an opportunity to find common ground on issues that otherwise there would not be.
Okay.
Well, Garrett, thank you so much for joining us.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Awesome initiative. Okay, so our next guest is currently on every 40 under 40 list in Washington, D.C., and he is the CEO of Ditto Residential. Now, Martin Ditto is a real estate developer who believes that great design can improve people's lives. He has been focusing on creating the perfect millennial living space in our nation's capital. Welcome, Martin, and can you tell us more about this co-living space where it seems like millennials are living in upscale dorm rooms?
Sure, yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Oslo is the product that we're talking about. Oslo, we started developing about 4 years ago, really before co-living even existed as a term. We produce Oslo in Shaw, which is a popular neighborhood for young people in Washington. And it's a typical co-living situation where you have multiple bedrooms where people have their own space for sleeping and bathrooms, and then a community space. So for creating experience similar to a dorm room that you might have had in college. But people want community more than we think that they did in the past. I mean, so young people are saying, look, I'm happy to be an adult. I'm happy to be in Washington, but I want that experience with people that I share values with. I want to live in community with them.
I mean, for me, someone who's moved around a lot for my career, it'd be so convenient to just move somewhere, have an instant social network, and have it be furnished. From a monetary perspective, it's also seems very advantageous.
Yeah, I mean, there are multiple reasons that it's popular for young people. I mean, certainly there's the value perspective. I mean, you can live there and have your own bedroom, live with people that you either make new friends or live with people that you already knew from college or from other parts of your life. And then there's also the design perspective. So everything Ditto does is high design. So working with top architects around the country. So bringing new architects into Washington, working with amazing young architects in Washington. And so there's that element as well. And finally, it's the community element, which I think everyone can understand and appreciate.
Absolutely. So what happens when these young professionals or millennials outgrow these living spaces? What if they want to start their own family, or they get a significant other who's like, I don't want to live with 5 of your bros anymore? Yeah.
I'm getting some secret notes on you here. You're a Rhodes Scholar and NCAA champion shot putter.
Oh wow! Look at you.
Someone's joking.
Someone's giving away all your
It's pretty
secrets
funny,
back
though.
there.
Someone, one of my friends.
Shot putter. You're small for a shot putter, aren't you?
Yeah, because that's not true. I wish I was a Rhodes Scholar. But no, I mean, I think that I think that young people in Washington D.C. are essentially they are growing up. They are meeting people. They are having children, and so there are opportunities to live in efficiencies in one bedrooms, which is the majority of new housing in Washington, is not really there. So our product can grow with you. I mean, we do produce high-end condos and apartments as people grow. One of our most exciting projects is an all 3-bedroom high design building near Union Market, which is similar to neighborhoods such as meatpacking here in New York. And that product is specifically for young people and for young people who are coming together with their families, having children. It's A, high design, B, set up for living with in larger spaces.
We have a question from the audience. Do you plan on expanding your business outside of the Washington area?
That's a great question. I just brought on a new partner and president, Toby Millman from Vornado, and what that allows us to
Very New York, right? Vornado.
Well, yeah, he was in D.C., but definitely a New York level of proficiency and work and drive. I think the opportunity of building our team and having really high level executive kind of presence allows Ditto to start thinking about that. I mean, truthfully, it's hard when you're starting a small business. I mean, we started off as basically a home builder, flipping houses essentially, right? And we've grown into a fairly significant high design development company in Washington with real aspirations to be one of the top developers in Washington. And what's interesting is, one of the unique things about our company is that we have a real brand, right? We have something beyond what the average Washington D.C. or even New York City developer has. We're not just taking assets and renovating them and selling them. We're creating an asset that we can expand into multiple geographic areas.
Right, so you're definitely meeting those needs, because from my experiences, most millennials and recent college grads are entering into these co-living environments because they just can't afford a studio apartment in metropolitan areas like Washington, D.C. or New York City. Do you ever foresee the housing market ever becoming more affordable so that recent grads could maybe not have to cohabitate with others because of a financial
Selena.
need? No, I mean, that's the reason why. No, I love the
When you
idea.
wish upon a star, huh?
Well, it's a good question, right? And this is why cities like New York and Washington are really struggling with competitive secondary and tertiary cities, right? You have the opportunity. It was Austin 10 years ago, but now Austin's really expensive, right? But you have the opportunity to go to Richmond and to go to Charlottesville and to go to Charlotte, and actually, and to have that. That's where cities like Washington and New York that have super high thresholds for single occupancy housing are going to struggle. And that's something that hopefully Washington can overcome by increasing its housing production and bringing housing prices down for young people and for families who, I mean, it's not just young people that have trouble in Washington and New York, right? It's families, it's all kinds of, all along the socioeconomic spectrum we have issues.
Absolutely.
Well, Mr. Ditto.
Thank you,
Great
Martin.
last name, by the way.
Right, yeah, I love it. Ditto.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So our next guest, we are welcoming Philip Michael. He's an investor in real estate, media, and tech, as well as a journalist and broadcaster. He's the founder of New York Equity Group, and he was formerly the director of content strategy at BizNow Media, which sold for $50 million. Hey, Philip, how's it going?
What's up? I'm doing well. How you guys doing?
We're doing well. So you are a journalist, but no, you were formerly a journalist. Tell us
He's
about
making money now. He can't be a
right,
journalist
right.
anymore.
Now he's into real estate.
it.
Tell us about why and how you made that transition from working in journalism into now real estate.
Well, I was originally in journalism school many, many years ago, and while I was there, one of the professors said, if you want to make money, get an MBA, basically get into business. So I started planning back then how I could leverage my media know-how, background, whatever you want to call it, into business. Plus, my family's in the real estate business, so I always had that proclivity, and I always wanted to go in that direction. So that's sort of how that came together.
You're Danish, right?
I'm Danish,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. I saw that in your bio, and I
Yeah.
thought, wow. Did you grow up in Copenhagen then?
No, but I went to school there. And
Oh,
I
you
lived
did?
there for some years, but yeah, I'm from Denmark. I grew up in the other side of the country.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
that's interesting. So tell us more about New York Equity Group.
Right.
And I know you guys you just closed a major deal.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, basically what we're doing right now, I raised a fund after BizNow sold. I went out on my own. I raised a fund from a group of investors, and now we actually did our first deal, which was overseas, and now we're doing one in Philadelphia, which is our first ground-up project. And it's actually one I just returned from Denmark, and it's one that I'm involving my family in as well. So I'm very, very excited about that.
Oh, wow. So that's exciting. That's exciting. What would you say about the real estate market? Why are you guys focusing on places like Philadelphia? And I know you guys also focus around a lot of college campus
I saw
areas.
something in Texas as well.
No, not Texas, mainly Philadelphia. But the reason being is because I really believe that New York is overpriced at the moment because there's a lot of, for various reasons, the yields are low. There's a lot of money coming from overseas, people that want to park money here. So I really don't want to mess with that at the moment. So right now the yields are better in Philadelphia. There's lots of supply and there's great opportunity. And also it's for someone who's doing their first ground up project, it's something that I can do without being in over my head, quite frankly.
Oh.
So that's the reason. Better yields, better opportunity, better supply. So that's the short.
So in your former life, when
Yeah,
you were
that's what I wanted to know about,
Right,
Selena.
so
There
in
you
your
go.
former life, when you were working in media as a
Yes.
journalist, you were also working on Sirius Radio.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you ever miss it, or is everything just brighter on the other side?
glamorous life
Right.
idea, yeah.
No,
Do
it's
you miss
awesome.
the
Not a
glamour?
lot of money, but it's very
I'm
glamorous.
still involved to some degree. I still do some writing, do some broadcasting also, but I do miss it sometimes, and I'm also involved as an investor in different media projects. So I do miss it, but the day-to-day hustle of being a journalist, that's not for me.
You're
not
telling
for me.
us we don't know anything about
Yeah. Really? What does
Yeah,
that
but it's-
feel like? We can't
No,
relate.
you work a lot, and of course the game is transforming, and people are still trying to figure out how to adapt to the modern media landscape. Do you do video? Do you
No
do
one
long
has
form, short
no
form?
one has any
Exactly.
idea. So
So,
evidently, the media company you used to run sold. So evidently, you
For
guys
$50 million.
You guys did
Well,
something
it
right.
wasn't. Yeah. Well, they figured out a way to monetize mainly from events and also from native advertising to a great extent, and that's what I think a lot of people are sort
Those
of
are two
pivoting towards.
growing areas.
Yeah, absolutely, and
Yeah.
also video was a great revenue driver. So I think that's sort of where it's going right now. So, but I don't really know where it's going to end up. Some people are toying with different models, but it's all a big mess.
I
but
go
yeah.
to workshop after workshop, and everyone
really?
gets up and claims this is where it's going, and I always sit in
Really?
the back, like roll my eyes, like nobody knows.
Right.
Nobody knows where media is going to end up. It's all
Right.
very experimental, but luckily.
Absolutely.
You ended up on the right side of things.
Well,
Should we all be investing in real estate now?
depends. That depends what your risk tolerance is and what your investment objectives are. I mean, I don't personally like stocks too much because it's not really backed by anything but the belief in the management. At least with real estate, you have an underlying asset based on something that never will go out of style, which is shelter. Some people are always going to need a place to live. And let's say you invested in Blockbuster when the DVD came out. You might have thought, yes, I have a deal. and you get Netflix and you're done. So that's why I like
Lest
real
we
estate.
forget they had the opportunity to buy Netflix and they passed up on
Oh,
it.
wow.
Oh, did
So
they?
it's always
Well, good for
about
them.
timing. Yes.
Exactly.
Absolutely, definitely. So where do you see your company going in the next 5 to 10 years? We can't make those predictions for media, but what would you say you would
Because
want
real
to see?
estate's cyclical as
Right.
well. Yeah.
Absolutely. But I mean, if you underwrite, that is, analyze your deals correctly and look at the ones that you have, you can always find a way to be relatively safe, even though every investment carries some degree of risk. But if you just look at it very carefully and look at the rental markets where you want to invest or build, then you're pretty safe.
We have a question from the audience. Any advice for millennials trying to start a business?
Just do it, Nike. Just do it. You know, like no, seriously,
There's a little
great.
check mark over you right now.
That's it. And a hashtag.
Are you a brand ambassador? Is that what you? Is that
No. They should
motivate
pay me
you?
though. Yeah, for real. No, really, it's there's a lower barrier to entry than ever to starting a business. You don't really need a lot of startup capital. In the past, you needed to go raise money, but now you can actually do it with $0 if you want to. You can go out and build a website. You can go out there and market on social media, whatever you have to do. So it's really easier than ever to start a business, and that's why if you have a product, go out there, test it, see if there's a demand for it, and just put it out there.
Well,
See what
Philip.
happens.
Thank
Tak.
you.
Thank you in Danish, right? Tak?
Mange
Oh,
tak,
what?
tusind
Yeah.
tak.
There we go. Thanks for coming on
Thank
the
you
show.
so much.
Thank you so much.
Next up, we have Cole Reifler. He's the president at Forefront Capital, which aims to give the middle class access to investment opportunities typically reserved for the 1%. Take a look at this video about Cole's firm.
What happens usually on Wall Street is the broker makes money before the investor does. I wanted to make a firm that really put the investor at the forefront and makes the investor the priority. If the 99%, the average investor, can invest like the 1%, we can really make impact and cause substantial change.
Cole is also the founder of Aurora, a financial platform whose mission is to empower the world to be equally powered by women.
Oh, I
Hey,
love
Cole.
it.
How you doing?
Very noble.
It is unbelievable to be here. How are you guys?
Oh, doing well. So
Yeah,
tell
doing
us,
well.
why is it important to give everyone the same access to investment as the very wealthy?
So I always start with passion. I always say you need passion to grow. So I went around the world, this is 2013, right out of college, and I said, what do I want to do with my life? My father and grandfather had been in the hedge fund world for years. So it would make sense for me to go down that route. Long story short, I realized the immense opportunity and equality around the world. Came back to the US and I said, how can I solve this? What can I do with my, skills to kind of cause change? Long story short, what I was able to do is fight with the SEC and change certain rules around to give non-accredited investors access to hedge fund-like investment opportunities. So this launched about 2.5 years ago, and it's been doing very
So in plain English for the crowd that doesn't
In layman terms,
understand.
please.
I apologize.
Break it down.
If you're a part of the 99%, an average investor, you can now invest in the opportunities that have outperformed 401ks and IRAs for years. So what happens if you're not part of the 1%, you don't have access to the same kind of investment opportunities, which is wrong. So I came in and I saw that and I said, wouldn't it be great if everybody had the same access to opportunity? It does not matter if you choose to take that opportunity or not, but the playing field should be equal. So that's what I came in and did. And Wall Street currently does not like me for a good reason, because I kind of take the fun away from let's keep everything in kind of the rich and keep everything away from the 99%.
Well, people not liking you usually means you're doing well, Cole.
Exactly.
Oh, I mean, no. If Wall Street, no. If they have you on notice, you're definitely doing a lot of things right. I want to talk about this equal access to opportunity. I think that you guys are focusing a lot on women. Are you also focusing on people of color or people from other disenfranchised communities?
That's a good question. So going to the other side of the world, Aurora, I founded with a partner that I met in Latin America. He's built his career in gender inequality and trying to fight for gender inequality. He met me. He was part of the campaign called the He for She campaign, which I'm sure you've heard of. Did very well with that. He is only 22 years old, so a very young guy. Came to me and he said, I love what you're doing in business. He's always been kind of for nonprofits. So he said, I want to join you on the dark side, I like to call it, and make some money. So I said, wouldn't it be great if we could not only help with wealth inequality, but also gender inequality? So what we've launched was Aurora to kind of help with this thing called a gender lending gap, where if you're a female, you're less apt to get access to credit. So there's a $200 billion gender lending gap around the world, which is unbelievable, meaning that you're less apt to get access to credit from a bank or an institution if you're not a man, which is unbelievable. So we're backed by an institution. Our goal is to underwrite at least $100 million worth of loans by the end of this year, upwards of probably $1 billion next year, to try to really solve this gender lending
This is
gap.
around the world?
This is around the world. So internationally,
Smaller loans then?
smaller loans. So we're now doing from 5,000 to 500,000. The goal internationally is to go much smaller than that. In Latin America, for instance, we're trying to start with education, educate the third world, and then bring these tools in, like investment, like access to loans and things like that.
Wow, that is really, really interesting. So, the name of your company is Forefront Capital.
Correct.
So, as a woman, obviously, and I'm also a person of color, if I was to sign up for Forefront Capital, how would you guys empower me to make smart investments and get access like the 1%?
Exactly. So you come to me as an investment expert, and what we want to do is kind of change how Wall Street works, where what happens usually is you go to an advisor, and the advisor takes a large fee to put you in certain investments. We don't charge any fees up front. We don't make anything until you make 8% per year. So this is a huge change on Wall Street. Usually, as you know, the advisor comes first and then the investor comes after. So our whole goal was to really be pro-investor. And want you to kind of do very well. So usually 401ks can make between 4 or 5 points a year. We want our investors to make at least 8 per year before we make any money.
Well, sign me up, Cole. I'll be signing up tonight.
One question from the audience before we end. As a male, what inspired you to empower women in the workplace?
It's great. So I always say this in terms of I came into the world for business and love opportunity. So found my partner and always wanted to solve certain issues around the world. He said, what goes into wealth inequality? Race, gender, all these aspects that I didn't think about at first. So I said, wouldn't it be unbelievable to incorporate gender? In the future, we want to incorporate race into what we're doing and really cause immense global change. And
I love it.
That's the goal. Thank
And you are an ally for women
It looks
empowerment.
like you already have a potential client here. Thank you. Thank you so much, Cole,
Thank
for
you.
coming on the show.
Okay, so next we have Drew Westerveld. He's the creator of Hex, a revolutionary laundry detergent. Take a listen to this video.
Laundry problems. Hex gets rid of that nasty odor trapped in your laundry without dyes, fillers, or harsh perfumes. At this rate, you're better off working out naked. So we set up a hidden camera to see what it'd be like.
Hi. Okay.
Hey, Linda, how you doing?
Oh, hey, Tom, what's up?
Not much, except a stench in my workout clothes. Nothing I try works. It's just so bad, I just started working out naked.
This new gym is the best gym. I mean, okay. Should I
Don't go naked. Get the stink out with Hex.
So I actually tried out your detergent and got some
Great
serious
commercial, by the way.
side eye in my laundry room. They're like, "What the heck is that?" Because the packaging is very different.
It is. Well,
Tell us about it.
yeah, so I played pro sports for 10 years, lacrosse. And when I was playing over the last 10 years, everything changed from cotton to synthetic, and I had a real challenge cleaning it. And being a single guy doing the laundry, I couldn't find anything in the laundry aisle, so I took the opportunity to say there's a real disconnect in the laundry category, and they're not really talking about the fabrics we're cleaning now. They're just covering up with fragrance. So
Yeah, the consistency is different. That's what I noticed. It's a very fundamentally different product than regular
definitely,
detergent.
I think we were unique in that when I looked at it, I didn't have any previous formulas to work off of, so everything's from scratch. So we basically said if we were going to build a product, what were the attributes we want? So everything about it's different, from the packaging to it pours like water, it's not dyed blue, it's not thick for no reason. It works on all fabrics, and it also cleans and protects. So a lot of performance fabrics you buy now come with like an anti-odor property to it. We build that into our product, so you get it every time you wash.
So this is fascinating. What type of research did you guys put into creating this detergent, since it's not based on any other model?
Yeah, so it actually started as a commercial product to actually clean and protect like athletic facilities. And when we learned about the attributes of the chemistries, we're like, wow, this would be really powerful for my gear and apparel that I am having challenges with. So, it kind of got us in to look at atypical chemistries for laundry. And my business partner is a chemist, so that also.
Okay, so that helps. Okay, got it. Well, this is great. So tell us more about not only the packaging, but I kind of want to know, have you guys had any challenges in getting investors to sort of invest in this product?
Yes and no. I think, we launched in April last year, and we're in 4,000 retailers since April. So a lot of our business.
Quickly.
That is awesome.
A lot of our revenue is from grocery distribution currently. So we're in a lot of the, like ShopRites and Targets and Wegmans and Harris Teeters and grocers like that. A lot of our business is also moving online, especially with Amazon, Target.com, and our own website. We're finding a lot of people are signing up for subscriptions and having product delivered to their house. So we're kind of playing both sides of that.
But I need to sign up.
Does it take some re-education? Because my first reaction too was when I was using the detergent is that it looked different and it did pour like water. So I'm like, do I need to use more? Do I need to use less? Like, I don't know what's going on.
It's our biggest challenge is education. I think laundry is very habitual, and people don't really blame their detergent for anything. And now that fabrics are changing and a lot of what we're washing is synthetic, it's created new challenges. And we've talked to a number of consumers who say, hey, I go to the gym in this product and I throw it out after 6 months. And that's kind of ridiculous that you're throwing fabric out because you can't get it clean. And it's not the fabric's fault. It's because the laundry category hasn't innovated. If you look at the category and you walk down that aisle, it's all fragrance. Fragrance and fragrance and fragrance. That's not clean. And they've kind of brainwashed people into thinking fragrance is clean. And we've kind of taken a completely different look at it and said, no, you don't need fragrance to clean, and let's look at this differently and actually provide a solution.
Because I actually sort of enjoy doing laundry, and the last time I went to the laundromat,
You obviously have a washing machine in your house.
no. It's almost relaxing. I get a lot of things done. I feel productive. The last time I washed clothes, I had to put 3 more things back into the dirty clothes bin because they did not come out clean. And I was wondering, I thought it was initially the fabric because I'm like, this dress is very light. Maybe it was the fabric, but you're saying that's not the case. It's the detergent I'm using.
Absolutely. I mean, that was my challenge, right? As an athlete, I would sweat in something all weekend. I'd come home, I'd fly home, laundry day was Monday, and everything would be soaking wet and sweaty in a bag. It was disgusting. And I'd wash it. The next time I wore it, it wasn't clean. So it kind of got me thinking, like, here's a huge opportunity, right? Like 60% of what we're washing is synthetic. And that Lululemon that used to be just what we wore to the gym is now transitioning to what you wear to the workplace. So this fabric is going to continue to grow, and I think the category needs to innovate with the fabric so these challenges don't exist.
So a question from the audience here, with Hex detergent, have you done anything to connect with certain athletes to promote the product? That would be part of your education.
Yeah.
That would be awesome if you can get like Serena Williams to sign on.
Be like, no stink anymore.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
Well, it's interesting. We've looked at going towards athletes. We've done a lot of work with bloggers and social influencers. So our key criteria for working with someone is they have to do their own laundry. So a lot of times with athletes, especially high-end athletes,
True.
they don't do their own laundry, and they probably never have.
Well, these anchors are not above doing their
Right.
laundry.
I just told you I love
know,
doing
I know.
laundry.
With Hex,
So
yes.
that's kind of what we've looked at. Yes, it's inspired by athletes, but our users, what we find is they buy it for cleaning their worst items, and then they find out, hey, it worked on that. I'm going to use it for everything. So it works for, my workout wear, my bath towels, maybe a dog bed, but people use it for everything, which is the great part.
Really quickly, how much do these go for?
So depending on the retailer, it's anywhere between $6.99 and $9.99.
Okay, so it's pretty
Drew,
much
it's not
within
a
that
price
market.
premium.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome.
Well, Drew, thank you so much for coming on. Love the detergent. Still have some left at home, so
Thanks,
I'll
appreciate
keep you posted. Next, we have Olga Vidasheva. She's the CEO of ShopTeeks.com on the show. ShopTeeks is an online fashion marketplace that aggregates inventory of participating local boutiques from across the country. She's here to discuss her line of websites, including ShopKids.com, which launched yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Welcome,
Look
Olga.
at that. You must be a busy woman.
Yeah, we just launched the baby website and it's 2 days old.
So it feels awesome.
Have you slept, or are you?
This weekend, my whole team was there, just 24/7. You know, kind of like working through the website, making sure that it's beautiful for the launch, and they did such an amazing job.
So this whole business model where, online shopping is moving us away from local, and you're finding a way to connect us with our own local retailers.
You know, I think a lot about kind of business in general, and I don't think it's anymore B2B or B2C. It's very much H to H, humans to humans. And I think that it is so much better and just so much more rewarding to buy something that somebody put a lot of heart and love into. And when you think about, women's, we've been doing it for 5 years. It's really cool because boutiques curate unique products. But for kids, there's just something special about buying organic, buying it from another mother, probably. That's the boutique owners primarily start the boutiques because they couldn't find the products they wanted and curating it for kind of their neighborhoods. And I think there's so much love and support and excitement that goes into the stores that it's really cool to buy from them. They write personal note to you inside that says, "Thank you so much for buying from me." I don't think that should be lost, and that's kind of the premise I started the business with. But it's also amazing price point, super soft product, a lot of organic. So for mothers who are really busy, who want to just shop on the phone, boom, it's very easy and gets delivered really quickly.
Oh, wow. So what sparked this idea for you to launch this website and this business?
For kids, so when I started the business 5 years ago.
So you have shopteeks.com.
Shopteeks.com.
And now you have shopkids.com.
Exactly. So I started shopteeks.com 5 years ago. I was just right out of business school. And I love discovering local places. I love traveling like many of us do. And I loved shopping all over the world. And I said, why can I not bring all of them online? But this woman who was at the time kind of my age really matured with us. And so they're having children now. And they've been emailing us for the last year and a half and saying, hey, what about kids? So we started with like a little section on the website that's like for baby and kids. And it was super tiny. And then we realized that it was quite rapidly growing and people continuing to email us that they love the organic pieces and they love the product. And so we said, okay, we just have to think about a destination where a woman can come in and fully shop for the child of all ages. And then one of the biggest features that we launched with is shop by age, because not only you're going to shop on Shop Kids for yourself or for your kids, but also for all the gifting. So we have a lot of personalized gifts. Like I have a lot of nephews and nieces. It's so hard to find a good gift because also I have no idea what size they are.
That's true.
So now with this, we are like, okay, if you're 5 years old, at least you know the age probably. Although I had to figure out how to, literally went on Facebook, tried to figure out how old my nephew is. But if you go in, you're like, okay, this is how old they are.
There's buttons. I saw it on the front of the website.
Simple.
It's like 0 to 3 months or 3 months to 6 months.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's built for like kind of a personal experience of like how hard it is to find gifts, and we just curated really cool, cool buttons and.
You actually have a fan on here. Hi, Olga. One of your retailers is here. Young Fabulous in Windsor, Canada.
Yay!
Yeah. So your retailers are
excited.
paying attention here.
They are. I mean, that's the beauty of working with small businesses and people who really care. They are not, just doing it for the sake of doing it. They're really putting their heart into everything they do, which is really exciting.
Oh, wow. That is very exciting. So what would you say is the future of your company? Are you trying to expand in any way?
Well, Shop Kids is definitely a big adventure. We just want more customers. So spreading the word, we launched this little cute card
wow.
that says,
what does that say?
You're better than unicorns and sparkles combined.
Oh,
both of you guys,
thank you.
Keep it on your desk.
No,
I love
It's
it.
cute. So like the brand is very much like fun and exciting and interesting. And so we just want to grow Shop Kids and continue to grow Shop Teeks, which has been already a huge success. We work with 6,500 stores on Shop Teeks and from all over the world, from 14 countries. So you can go on the site and buy, from Dublin or from Germany or from
Would you say there's one country or place in particular that you have been focusing on, or maybe you've had more, people have been more receptive to the brand?
Well, I think the U.S., when you're local here, I'm going around and telling people about it. I think there's nothing like it. As I said, it's H to H, it's humans to humans. So like telling people at my story is really exciting. But Canada has been great. We launched in Mexico last year. We launched in New Zealand recently, in Australia. So I think that the world is becoming more local global, if you will. Like everything is so accessible. You can literally buy from Israel and get it in 2-3 days in your apartment in New York. which is pretty cool. So I just feel like we are at the forefront of this innovation of making global really accessible.
Wow, that is awesome.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Olga.
Thank you. Okay, now rounding out the hour, we have our Bookster segment. Now, Bookster is a website for book lovers and much more. Stacy Lender is the author of City Mouse, a novel, and a recently released book about the suburban adventures of a couple that leaves the city to live in suburbia. Welcome to the show, Stacy.
Thank you.
So tell us more about the plot line of this book. I read up a little bit, and it was about this couple who were living in the city, reminded me of myself. They were living in Manhattan, and then they had to leave because prices, I guess their rent was too high, and they had to leave and go to the suburbs, but the wife didn't like that.
That's exactly it. It's a juicy read about that struggle to find your place. So as a young wife, a young mom, and a couple, you get priced out of the city and you look to the suburbs, to a house, to a garage, to the backyard, and a better life for you and your family. But in this particular story, Jessica and Aaron, the characters, move and they meet friends that they don't quite expect to meet, and things go in a little bit of a different direction. So it's
Suburbia isn't as pure as everyone thinks it is.
Well, I think what you see on the outside is not always exactly what's happening for real. So, of course, it is fiction, but it's based on some personal experiences. My husband and I actually chose to stay in the city, but we were very close to moving to the suburbs. So that was around the same time that I went to a college reunion and heard a story about a bunch of moms from the suburbs who go on weekends away and everyone cheats on their husbands.
Really? So that's the juicy part?
That's part of the juicy part, yes.
Wow.
So you told us what led you to write this book, but how did you have the discipline to write this all? Because, a lot of people would love to be an author, but what made you finally buckle down and say, listen, I'm going to get published, I'm going to do this?
Well, when I heard that story and I couldn't get it out of my head, and I didn't certainly know if it was true or not, I wanted to write. And so literally I took a class. I had young kids at home, but I went every Wednesday night and 3 pages a week. It took 5 years. And I'm a working mom as well, and so I was working, raising kids, but the class definitely was key because that gave me deadlines. It gave me a group of people who gave me feedback, which in a place like writing, it's so solitary. And so I enjoy people. And so I enjoyed that feedback. And after 5 years, it took a year to find an agent, another year to find a publisher. I mean, it's a long journey, but I do feel really proud that the day is finally here, the book is out, and
your name's
it's real.
on the front of the book. People are reading your
real.
story.
It's happening.
Wow. So how did you even find out about that writing class? Because I know a lot of people, like myself included, I definitely want to write a book, but a lot of people don't know when and how to get started.
So in my case, the New York Writers Workshop was where I went. There are classes all around New York City, and actually there are classes in many cities through other workshops. You just have to look at your local library. In this case, New York Writers Workshop had a class in my neighborhood, and that's how I found it, and that's how I started.
Wow.
So what word of advice do you have for aspiring authors who have all these great stories in their head but don't know exactly how to get it down onto paper, besides the class? Like, what did you do to keep yourself to 3 pages a day? It doesn't sound like a lot, but that's hard to do consistently.
It was hard, but I always had my eye on the end. I was always going to finish. That was my goal. And I had a quote up sitting on my bulletin board, Amelia Earhart, the most effective way to do it is to do it.
Wow.
And that's what I did. Every day I would write a little bit. There'd be times that I couldn't write, and that was okay too, but I always saw the end, and I just always pictured that the book would be published.
Well, I think that's the underlying theme here. One of our former guests said the same thing. You just have to do it. If you have an idea, just get to it. And even if it takes a long time, the results seem well worth it.
I fit it in the edges. Nobody has time. You have to make time.
Right. You can't find time. You make the
Make the
time.
time.
Absolutely.
So, a fiction story. You have all these elements in your head. How did you go ahead and choose exactly how your main character, what she was going to run into, exactly how did you make those critical decisions in terms of, themes that were going to make it down onto paper?
Well, I knew there were certain themes that I wanted to explore and write about, like we talked about fitting in, finding your place, female friendships, the complications. And I had an outline in the beginning, but to be honest, after a few months, I scrapped the outline because in my writing classes, I learned that people would say, oh, the characters will tell you where they want to go and what they want to do. And I thought, that sounds completely crazy.
It does sound like the characters from your head are going to talk to you and tell you what to do.
And it was great. It was true. That's what happened.
Really?
Yes. And so
they take a life on their own?
They do. And again, I sound even crazy saying that out loud, but it was the kind of creative process where building the characters, none of the characters are anyone I know. They're fictional. There's maybe pieces of people.
But they're
along
alive
the
to
way.
you. They're very much alive.
They become alive in that very strange way. So with that, I put together the stories that I thought were going to happen. And then in many ways, the plot ended up going in a direction where even I was surprised at the end. I thought, wow, I can't believe that actually happened. But
oh wow, I gotta read this book now. Definitely.
Thanks.
So were you always a creative person?
I always loved to write, but my career is in entertainment marketing. And so there's, I think, a certain creativity to marketing, but there's also a science and a piece to that that's different type of work. So this was my first, I felt like, true creative endeavor. And I felt like I would miss appointments, I would write, and I thought, oh, right, all those creative people that I know are in their own worlds, like that started happening to me. But then I would have work to do in my other life, and so I'd have to stick to deadlines and do that as well.
All right, so how can people order this book?
So it's available wherever books are sold. It's available on Amazon, City Mouse under books.
And it's Amazon Prime Day as well, guys. So today is a good day to make an order.
It is Amazon Prime Day.
Absolutely.
I already made several purchases.
You're pretending to work today, but really you're on Amazon Prime.
Taking advantage of those
So go
deals.
right into the book section and order City Mouse for sure. And independent bookstores, big bookstores. I mean, it's been a really exciting month since the book has come out, and I'm excited about it. So yeah,
Well,
hope
Stacey,
you enjoy your summer read.
Yeah, well, Stacey, it was so great to have you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stacey.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, and thank you, Selena, always for being
Oh,
here.
thank you, David, for inviting me back.
And
I love it.
thank you for watching Bold Business. Be sure to catch Clay Aiken and Carrie Sheffield on Friday at 10 a.m. And we'll be back next week for another episode of Bold Business. So we'll see you soon.
Bye. Awesome, State. Yeah, no.
Oh, it was